I'll start with Justice Waziri, if I may. Did you think, sir, when you were on the bench, that talking about or adjudicating environmental justice was an elite idea? Did you think that when you were doing that, you were perceived as being elitist? And what I'm actually asking you is, when you think of sustainable development, when you think of climate justice, what is it that you think about? And then what is it that people think that you're thinking about?
Oh, बहुत गहरा सवाल है. I never thought all these things, frankly speaking. I did what came to me naturally. I thought that there are some wrong had been done, and let the parties do something together whereby they can contribute to their society. I did not even think so far as to say, oh, participative democracy and all that stuff. मैंने सोचा ही नहीं था. मुझे बस लगा कि इनको मौका मिल रहा है, अगर दो लोगों का झगड़ा हुआ है, सुलह कर रहे हैं, they found some peace. All right, you've done that now. Please go and do something for the city. अपने आप से माफ़ी मांगो. अपने आप से माफ़ी मांगना बहुत ज़रूरी है. It is that concept which brought about this so-called, what we did in the city. And one thing led to the other, and it grew, let's put it that. Hundreds and hundreds of orders were passed. In the process, the excitement I saw from people was very heartening, and that's the only thing I have to say about this. And I must tell you where it started. The idea came to me from the movement in New York City. आजकल वैसे वहाँ से ताज़ा हवा आ रही है. तो सन 70 के दशक में वहाँ पर पोल्यूशन बहुत था. कोल बर्निंग, फैक्ट्रीज एंड द शिप की जो तमाम धुआं आती थी. So they said, what do we do? They planted 1 million trees. Over the last 40-50 years, they have benefited from that. It has mitigated the pollution to quite large extent. They brought the heat down. The city is beautiful. So I said, वहाँ 50 साल पहले हो सकता था, हम अपने शहर में क्यों नहीं कर सकते? You talk about, in that city, you talk about, sorry, I'm digressing, but I'm taking some of time. Yes. In that city, they talk about something which is called Central Park. हम कभी शहर में गए नहीं हैं, लिहाजा हम सिर्फ सुनते हैं, उसके पढ़ते हैं. 1000 एकड़ की ज़मीन है, उसके बारे में जिक्र करते हैं. आप यहाँ बगल में बैठे हैं नेक्स्ट टू लोधी गार्डन. ये 80 एकड़ की ज़मीन है, इसमें तकरीबन 3 या 4 हज़ार पेड़ हैं कुल मिला के. लेकिन ठंडक इसका करीब 2 किलोमीटर के दायरे में आता है पूरा रेडियस में. हमारे पास सेंट्रल रिज है, उसमें 2400 एकड़ ज़मीन है. गरचे उसको आप ग्रीन कर लेते हैं, दिल्ली की काफ़ी सारी मुश्किलें वहाँ से आसान हो जाती हैं. सो आई डिड नॉट थिंक दैट फार कि इसके क्या कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एस्पेक्ट को नहीं सोचा था, सच्चाई बता रहा हूँ.
But it still had far-reaching effects for people of this.
दिल से फैसला. दिल से फैसला. और the most important thing is the excitement in the parties. अपनी जेब से खर्च कर रहे हैं, किसी और की ज़मीन पे नहीं लगा रहे, सरकार की ज़मीन पे जा रहे हैं, कह रहे हैं I want to be a part of my city building. And उनको मौका मिला, और वो ज़मीन was only kept for forest और green land और district parks. DDA की ज़मीन है जो दशकों से ऐसी फैलो पड़ी हुई है, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, उस पर घास तक नहीं निकलता. वहाँ पानी का ऑलरेडी इंतज़ाम है, 50-70 साल से वहाँ STP का वाटर पहाड़ी पे है. पहाड़ी पे वहाँ पर 25 लाख लीटर का रोज़ का पानी का इंतज़ाम है वहाँ पर, लेकिन इस्तेमाल नहीं होता था. The systems are there, it was not working. Thank you.
There's also this thing in the climate justice movement about dwelling well. And I feel that in India, we only concentrate on dwelling, somehow, surviving. The wellness aspect of it we associate with, I don't know, spiritualism and resorts and such. But dwelling well, to dwell well in a city, is such a good idea, it's such a valuable concept. Do you want to add to that, sir?
हम जब मच यंगर डेज में दिल्ली के बारे में सुनते थे ना, तो दिल्ली का जिक्र होता है, दिल्ली में गुलाबी जाड़ा होता है. दिस इज़ द सीजन फॉर दैट. नाउ इट्स ग्रे. ठंडक आ रही है लेकिन इट्स ग्रे. This city was beautiful. हम जब यहाँ as a young man आए थे पढ़ने के लिए, it was really a beautiful city in many ways. One would visit this place at that time, and this city attracted tourists from all over the country. International tourists also would come. Now I think the hotel industry is suffering big time on that. तो लोग दिल्ली को avoid करते. That golden triangle of Delhi, Agra and Jaipur, of that Delhi is, I'm told, somewhat being missed out. So the entire hotel industry suffers big time, the hospitality industry, and everything related to that. See what an effect it makes. Now because of that, दिल्ली से अब लोग बाहर जाना चाहते हैं. चंद दिनों के पीछे अखबार उठा के देख लीजिए, हर शख्स कहता है दिल्ली जीने के काबिल नहीं है अब. चलो अब यहाँ से कूच करें. How many people can do that? Those who live in अम्बेडकर नगर जाके देखिए, और बस्ती में कोई दरख्त नज़र आता है आपको? वेस्ट दिल्ली में जाके देखिए, कहाँ पर आपको दूर तक देखने पे एक दूर तक कोई दरख्त नज़र नहीं आएगा, कोई हरियाली नज़र नहीं आती है. क्या उनके जीने का हक नहीं है? Don't they have a right to have something which will mitigate the pollution in the city? Can't we have better roadways or something where there is no congestion? Where is the engineer of whoever is road running agency to see what are the bottlenecks because of these noxious fumes which are being emanated by this ever-burgeoning traffic in Delhi? Who is the person responsible? Systems are not responding. Citizens को ही वहीं पर जाना पड़ता है कोर्ट्स में. कोर्ट्स कहती हैं, कई बार तो कोर्ट्स ने कहा अच्छा इस सड़क को साफ करके दिखाओ, यहाँ तक सिचुएशन आ गया है. तो हम the courts are doing it in their own innovative ways by appointing court commissioners, and they go and monitor and assist, and taking the IIT's assistance and so many other agencies who come forward and assist. So ये wellness वगैरह एक अलग चीज़ है, अमीरज़ादों की हिंदुस्तान नहीं है. हिंदुस्तान सबका है, सबको जीने का हक बराबर है. शुक्रिया.
Justice Oak, I have the same question for you, sir. I wanted to ask you, you're known as an environmental judge. You've given judgments that are categorized as environmentalist or environmental. But when you were, for instance, hearing a case that had to do with demolitions, or that had to do with ghettoization, or that had to do even with foreigners' tribunal, to you, are those also concerns of climate justice or sustainable development? How do you categorize it?
No, of course, they are the real concerns before us. And as I said some time back,
yes,
that illegal shanties or illegal slums, I don't think they contribute to, any major contribution is made by them to pollution. In fact, when it comes to those issues, as judges, we are bound by Article 21, we have to protect them.
Right.
If for some reason demolition has to take place, then we must ensure that they are rehabilitated. But even rehabilitation has an issue. Since you have raised this, I am telling you. In Mumbai, issue arose, there is a pipeline which supplies water to the city because all the lakes are outside Mumbai. So there were shanties constructed above the pipeline. They cause danger. So court passed an order that you want to remove them, re-accommodate them at somewhere. There is one of the worst polluted areas in Mumbai. There are industries there, refineries there. So all of them were given accommodation in houses constructed near the refineries. So the court had to say that this is no way of rehabilitation. So court directed that everybody should be paid some 15,000-20,000 rupees per month so that they can go and acquire accommodation elsewhere on the in other part of the city. But I don't think that this has any nexus with the issue of environment, in the sense that nobody can say that the slums are creating environment. Now, carrying forward what brother said, I have myself criticized our courts, even as a sitting judge, that we are not able to fulfill expectations of common man. But when I say that, we have to remember one thing. We have to imagine one thing rather. I am just giving two illustrations because we are in Delhi. If there was no Godawa Raman, if there was no MC Mehta, and such people are there all over India, every high court you will find environmental activists. What would have happened to the environment if courts had not stepped in? And therefore, carrying further what brother said, I firmly believe that when you protect environment, you protect fundamental rights of people. You ensure that everybody has to live healthy life, and therefore the courts to some extent must be very harsh while dealing with the environmental issues. But that's the need of the hour. Please think about only one thing. Do you find a government or governmental agencies really thinking about protecting or conserving the environment? It is perhaps left to the environmentalists and to the courts to do it. So this aspect we have to remember. See, ultimately, I always, other day I said in one of the functions as a sitting judge, we must ask questions to the citizens also. Are you performing your fundamental duty of protecting the environment? Are you performing your fundamental duty of protecting the lakes and rivers? If you are really interested in doing your fundamental duty of protecting the rivers, lakhs and crores will not go and take holy dip in the river. But that causes pollution. So
Yes.
It's not only about the courts. Courts have to do it, no doubt about it. What about citizens? What about the government? As I said, government is collectively responsible for conserving and protecting environment. So unless members of the public or citizens start protecting the environment, orders of the court won't be sufficient at all.
And may I have you now, Parameshwar? A couple of questions. A, what do you think of when you think of the environment? Second, what Sir mentioned that these cases, Godavarman, MC Mehta, what do you feel about them having come to the courts as PILs, as public interest litigation, where it's basically a public-minded citizen who's brought in a case, but less participation of the people? And third, how do you see environment in opposition to other issues like livelihood, for instance, which keeps coming up every now and then, and you've had to even deal with that?
Every environmental matter to me is a fight over distribution of resources. If it is a fight over distribution of resources, notwithstanding all the contribution the judiciary has made to the environment, because the nature of the judicial system is such that it comes to a yes, no, black, white, permission granted, permission not granted. My understanding is the full range of options are not available to the court always. How well you can distribute those resources. Any environmental issue, I think, is an issue of distribution of resources.
So therefore, what do you feel about the PILs then? I mean, a third person coming in.
The PILs have definitely served a purpose. There's no running away from that. But the PILs have two limitations. One is the process itself is a limitation. As I said, that your judicial process can only give you a certain kind of results. Most of the time they are binary. They are binaries. You have only ones or zeros. You don't get multiple options in a judicial process. If it is a participative process, if solutions are found elsewhere, I think the process of distribution of resources will have a rainbow of colors rather than just black and white. That's one part. Two, all these PILs are also personality driven. All these PILs are personality driven. So there is always, whether it be the Supreme Court or the High Court, there are always crests and troughs according to the judges who handle those cases. If I can hazard, according to the amicus who are handling those cases, there is a certain colored perspective that comes into all these pieces. That's the other limitation of judicial process and environmental decision making, that it is very personality centric. So there is a phase that every case goes through because the people involved in the cases are there. Because it's a continuing mandamus. Most of these cases across high courts or Supreme Court are continuing mandamus. So this is the second limitation that's there. The third thing you ask me about environmental law, livelihood, etc. There's no doubt that every environmental case is a case of class struggle. I have no doubt about that. When you asked auto rickshaw drivers in Delhi to switch overnight to CNG, the Supreme Court didn't bother about the livelihoods of the auto rickshaw drivers. It gave them what? 45 days is the first chance, then another 45 days. It was not easy for them. When they asked people to shift over from industries to shift from Yamuna, there's always been, what do you say, the byproduct of Supreme Court's decisions has always been on certain classes of people. You can't run away from that fact. You can't run away from the fact. And unfortunately, a lot of environmental litigation is also brought to the court by the elite class of this country. They want clean cities. They want pollution not in my backyard. It can go elsewhere. The cities can remain clean, but the suburbs needn't be clean. So I'm saying the fact that you said environmental and livelihood, no, it's not question of environment and livelihood. Environment is about livelihood. Environment is about class struggle. There is no doubt. There is no running away from that.
Otherwise, it's gardening. No, but my good friend Anuj Bhuvania, who's written a book called Courting the People, would have much to say about what you're saying, that PILs being brought in, where it's a question of distribution of resources.
One remark of Anuj that keeps coming in my mind every time is that he says Delhi is not run by elected governments, Delhi is run by two courts. That's Anuj makes that comment very validly, because he says Delhi's environment is controlled by courts. Mm-hmm. What to build, where to build, what to seal, where to seal is controlled by courts. What vehicles to ply, what vehicles not to ply is controlled by courts. What water to release, where to release, how to release is controlled by courts. So I think Anuj makes an excellent point in his book, saying Delhi is a city that's run by two courts, the Supreme Court and the High Court, and not by the elected government.
Justice Oak, do you think that already queers the pitch when it's a...
See, I always welcome, as a sitting judge also, I welcome constructive criticism. But why this happens, we must find out. Courts may have, somebody can say courts may have exceeded the jurisdiction of their limits. There is a complete failure of governance. Please imagine a situation if there is no MC Mehta, there are no MC Mehta orders in existence. Please imagine a situation where MC Mehta case in Taj Trapezium, there is not a single order. Taj Mahal would have been lost. So, yes, when we should surely have rethink, those who belong to legal fraternity, whether the courts are exceeding the limit, always that has to be discussed. But at least in environmental matters, we must imagine if courts were not there, where would have been environment in our country today? And see, unfortunately, we talk only about MC Mehta and Godavaran. In every state, there are litigations. For example, there is one gentleman in Bangalore, lifelong he fought for restoration of lakes. Yes. Now, restoration of lakes is not for elitist. Restoration of lakes is for restoration of environment. So, every state I name people, and they were not elitist.
Right, sir.
And those who are not elitists, all common people, they had taken up the cause for a cause of the environment. And if they had not taken up the cause of environment, where we would have been today?
Right, sir, right.
That's a question that somebody will have to answer.
That is the question, yes.
And I again say, I respect. See, when you sit in the court, if you find that no government agency has any respect or regard for law of environment, courts have to pass order, and in that process, court may have gone one step ahead. I accept that criticism, but what else court can do?
That is my friend Anuj Bhuvania's criticism, sir. That's not my criticism.
I welcome that criticism. Yeah. See, I welcome that criticism. See, only if there is a criticism, if there is a constructive criticism, we remain in our bounds. So that is most welcome.
Yes, of course, sir.